Welcome back to What's on My Needles. And what's on my needles this week is another round of donated yarn, but this one's a little different. This one's wool. Yes, I know I've knitted with donated wool yarn before. That was a donated to charity, and they couldn't use it, therefore I got it. This is a person wanted to make a sweater and realized that their hands were not up to the task anymore. So, since I was the person who had helped them first figure out how to adjust the pattern, I got the yarn. So, I made up my gauge swatch. It is cute, it is tiny, but it told me what I needed to know about how many stitches per inch there are. So, I'm going to get everything set up. So, I'm going to do the first cast on round and with this frankly giant set of needles for me, and I'll be right back. So I have casted on the correct number of stitches, and instead of doing a normal knit round as my next round, I'm actually going to do a purl round. Now I'm doing this to actually make it so that I can add a skirt later. But again, I'm not in control of the yarn. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to do. I'm not going to start with a skirt just to run out of yarn later. So I'm doing a purl row, and then later I can just pick up from these stitches to make the skirt portion. So yes, I will continue to refer to this as a sweater. In reality, it is a sweater dress. But sweater is what I shall be calling it for most of this. There is a detail coming. So here is the hopeful pattern. This is super rough, but I do have it as roughly, so the square is 30 stitches by 28 rows, which will be more or less up into the arm size for the sweater. So I will figure out exactly where it is sitting and how it's sitting in the next little bit. So the next part of this video will in fact be working on that bit. So yeah, one row of purl, or one round of purl, and then one round of knit, or several rounds of knit, and then I'll be over to the design. So be back in a bit. So here I am at the point of needing to divide out the armhole, so divide the front and the back. But I'm going to start with showing you guys how the pattern on the front is working. So most of the time that start of round marker would be at the underarm. Because my underarms are 5 stitches on this, due to gauge and due to size of the person I'm making this for, that is actually the beginning of the front. So I'm going to knit across, and then I know this is hard because it is very dark yarn, but there are the purl stitches. So I'm making a star. And yes, I'm aware of how hard it is to see this. But I am making a star, so I'm going to purl the next 6. And then knit, and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 more. Nine, 10, 11. I'm going to quickly double check because the last thing I want to do is have to undo this. Then it's going to be binding off 5. So remember, it's, in my case, it is knit 2 past the first stitch over, and then continue the knit 1 past a stitch over until I have the correct number bound off. One more. And that's the start of the back. And then I will work across, bind off for the other armhole, continue up the front for a bit, and I will be back to show you how the front separates into the right front and left front in a bit. So here I am at the point of separating out for the neck opening. So once I get to knitting back and forth, I do actually slip the first stitch of each row. I'm going to knit most of the way across, but not all the way. Or most of the way to the split, but not quite all the way. And that's because to do a V-neck, I actually need to get rid of some of the stitches. So in this case, I'm actually going to do a knit 2 together, and that is my center. So I'm going to then turn the whole work around, purl, again slipping that first stitch, purl all the way back, and then continue to do much the same pattern as that all the way until I get up as high as I get down to the number of stitches that I'm looking for, and then I'm actually going to continue for an extra 4 stitches or 4 rows beyond that, so that I don't have to take that chunk out of the center back. So I will keep working on this. I will do the other side and probably the back off camera, and I will be back in a bit when it's most likely time for the sleeves. So I was going to show you the 3 needle bind off, and then I made an unfortunate discovery of I don't know where my double pointed needles are that are the correct size. So we're going to do this a slightly different way. Just doing a crochet 3 needle bind off. So I've inserted my hook into both loops, making sure that both loops lay flat. I'm pulling through and pulling both loops off. And then I'm going to again enter through both loops to make them lay flat. Yarn over and pull the loop through, and then pull it through the first loop. So in, yarn over, pull through 2, and pull through 2 again, or pull through 1 again, all the way across. So seeing as I have run out of steps that I can do before I go get a new set of double pointed needles or find my existing set, this is actually where this video is going to end, with the end of the bodice. And then I will be back next week with how to do the skirt and how to do the sleeves. But before I leave, that was the shoulder seam. And then I'm actually going to do this next bit knitwise to bind off for the bottom of the neck, or base of the neck. Okay, so I will see you next time on What's on My Needles.